Good morning. Today we're going to explore the 14th quatrain, the 14th Homage to Tade. Homage to you whose foot stomps the earth and whose palm strikes the ground by your side, with a wrathful glance and the syllable whom you subdue all in the 7 stages. We're going to begin with the first couplet. Homage to you whose foot stomps the earth and whose palm strikes the ground by your side. Now these are wrathful actions, and in fact we have to remember this was penned during the latter portion of the Bronze Age. This was penned when men went to war with swords and shields. Anyone who's ever studied martial arts, especially the internal arts, recognize that stomping is an act of using leverage and subtle physics to increase the impact of one's chops or strikes or parries. Last summer I worked with a gal, probably about 105 pounds, and she liked doing live action role playing. Specifically, she was a member, and I hope I get this right, she was a member of the, something about the Society for Creative Anachronisms. And so she would participate in these fake wars with padded swords and spears and daggers and stuff like that. And she explained frustration because there she was, 105, 110 pounds, going up against guys, behemoths, 200-pound guys. So I taught her how to use some internal martial arts, how to use stomping and stuff like that to increase the power of her spear thrusts and to make her able to outmaneuver her foes. So I've said all that to say this. Stomping is a martial act when it comes to the use of swords and spears in days of yore. So in tantric circles we use the phrase wrathful aspect and peaceful aspect. And every parent shows a wrathful and peaceful aspect. My mom, bless her heart, my Jewish little mom, 5 pounds on her best day, 5 feet tall on her best day, maybe 100 pounds, very, very thin. When I was in junior high, I was the survivor of a hit-and-run get-together with a car and a bike, and of course I was the schmuck on the bike. And when my mom found out, she was ready to take a human life. She was stomping mad. Man, woe unto he who attempts to separate a cub from its mama bear. And so the protective quality of love is very real. We see it in the animal kingdom. We see it amongst humans. The protective instinct is something we're all aware of. We've all seen many, many times. And so that's what we're seeing here in this. This is the possibility that we're exploring with Tara right now. That yes, she's accomplished nirvana. Yes, she has an arhat's accomplishment of spiritual resilience, as well as a Buddha's accomplishment of spiritual mastery. But that has not fed her aloofness. To the contrary, she is passionately involved in our well-being. And I must draw from the Jewish culture again. We've heard about the idea, well, we'll come back to this in a few moments. In the second couplet we read, with a wrathful glance and the syllable whom you subdue all in the 7 stages. And the 7 stages is just another way of describing the 6 classes of samsara. and it's very unimportant. The classic description of samsara, whether it be literal if you're a fundamentalist or metaphoric if you're a liberal, is hell beings, hungry ghosts, animals, humans, demigods, and gods. But another way of describing it is just the same at the bottom half. Hell beings, hungry ghosts, animals, humans, but this time describing it in terms of desire realm gods, form realm gods, and formless realm gods. And look, now you have 7. Is that important? Not at all! Let us not slip into the trap of becoming masters of minutia. That's not terribly important, boys and girls. Not at all. The important thing is, the idea is that, well, if you ever watched a movie about the Marines, they have this wonderful prayer that goes something along the lines of, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for I'm the biggest, baddest motherfucker in the whole goddamn valley." It's okay, boys and girls, we use those words in a sentence. But anyone who's done martial arts competitively knows there's always someone faster, there's always something stronger, there's always a technique you haven't encountered before, which can be disheartening, regardless of the bravado that we attempt to embrace. But the neat thing is, the neat idea that we're exploring here, the neat possibility that we're playing with, is that there's nothing that Tara cannot handle, which is awfully nice. Now, in the 3rd line, it says, with a wrathful glance and the syllable hum. So, syllable hum is a reference to her wrathful mantra, and remember, this was penned a very, very long time ago. And a great example of a wrathful mantra would be the Jewish wrathful mantra, which is basically the word enough. You know, when me and my sister were kids, and we would drive someplace with our grandparents, they would be conducting the Civil War in the front seat. They would be arguing back and forth. But of course, me and my sister were spastic, hyper little kids, and eventually our grandfather would turn around and say, "Enough! Enough with the noise!" Or, if he was really upset, it was, "Enough already!" So you could think of Green Toddy as saying, "Enough already with the suffering." You know, because let's face it, we all suffer, we're all subject to internal obstructions, the habit energies of our impulses, of our aggression, of our greed, of our fear, and the like. And of course, the external obstructions, malevolent, let's say, less than ideal circumstances and malevolent entities, corporeal or non-corporeal, who oppose us, either because we're Dharma practitioners, or because we've offended them on some petty level, or because they just don't like the cut of our jib. But there are external and internal obstructions, and we always start with a peaceful negotiation. Basically, the basic protocol is you start off with an ambassador, and when negotiations break down, then you send in the troops. And what's good to know is, here's the idea that the Buddha has our back. The female Buddha, Green Toddy, has our back. And when we can't do it, we can rely on her. And when we can't do it, she can do it. Now, is that something we're supposed to believe in? No, but it's a wonderful idea to play with and embrace and see how that works. Now, as a young man, Dzamputrul Rinpoche, when he was still a fundamentalist, when he was towing the party line, he wrote a book that's very popular. It's called The Words of My Perfect Teacher. And he talked about the abuse of the Cho practice, and that when performing exorcism, too many young, inexperienced lamas would be stern and aggressive, and that might work for imps, but for the great big scary demons, that would just get their asses kicked. He said he explained that the key to really performing an exorcism was not to stomp and snort and look scary and lift your head and flare your nostrils and show them your rocks, these rocks, but to be completely empowered by the true bodhicittas of compassion and the wisdom of letting go. And that's lost on many people, including me in the past. When I was starting off and I was just a traditional monastic student, I remember thinking, man, this sutra stuff is cool, but it's going to pale in contrast to the power of Tantra. And that's a common misnomer. Dilgo Kensei warned frequently that the practices of Tantra must never contradict the teachings of Sutra. So think of it this way. And whether you use the Tibetan term Chokchen or the Sanskrit term Mahamudra, the practices of channels, winds, and drops, the practices of offerings, visualizations, and mantras must always be in harmony with Sutra's renunciation, compassion, and wisdom. A great example of this is what some people would describe as the pinnacle of compassion practice, love practice, Lojong or Tonglen, which can be translated in English as simply taking and giving. So let's pretend you're dealing with someone in the grips of aggression, and they're just screaming at you and maybe even revving up to assault you. And I don't know about you, I'm disabled. Running away is not really much of an option. Shuffling away on two canes. I'm not going to break any land speed records. So when I find myself in that situation, what I do, what I recommend is, and of course, if you can't run away, run away. But if you can't, if you find yourself in a circumstance where strategic retreat is impossible, then here's something that I really recommend. Taking and giving. So, as someone's just, to use the poetic term, exhaling poisonous gas. In other words, they're stomping and snorting. As you gaze at them with disfocused eyes, using peripheral vision, we can intend to take away their and everyone else's rage and hate as billowing black smoke that enters into our nostrils. And folks, that will cause our subtle energies to coalesce in our central channel, and that's a Mahamudra practice. And on the out-breath, we can really make the most use of our out-breath by intending that love and peace in the aspect of 84,000 rays of light leave through our 84,000 pores, form a sphere around us that expands and passes through everything, being, and phenomena, and eventually encapsulating the entire universe. Just slathering the universe and its inhabitants with love and peace. What an excellent use of your relaxing out-breath. And folks, that is not only Sutra, that is also Tantra. That is also finding the most spiritual use of our body and our breath and our energy and our intention. And so the simple act of Lojong, if done mindfully, is a completion stage practice as well as a sutra practice. So in Tantra, we talk about creation, completion, and great completion. And sometimes people call great completion Dzogchen. Sometimes they call it Mahamudra. Regardless of what you call it, awareness can be powerful, especially if it's in harmony with our breath and our body and our circumstances. I'm reminded of another Marine Corps saying I've heard in a movie, so it must be true. Assess, improvise, adapt, overcome. And so, after doing maybe 3 rounds of Lojong, you can simply be aware of what you see on the in-breath. On the out-breath, intend to let go of it as you let go of your breath. On the in-breath, you can simply sharpen your awareness of what you hear. And on the out-breath, you can intend to let go of that perception and its apparent solidity as you let go of your breath. Likewise, on the next in-breath, you can be aware of what you feel physically or emotionally, actually or sympathetically. You might feel your rage or fear or their rage or fear. And on the out-breath, as you let go of your breath, you can let go of the illusion of permanence and independence and solidity. Sometimes you can let go of what you feel. Sometimes what you feel is so strong, or what you see is so strong, or what you hear is so strong, you can't let go, but you let go of everything else but that. You know what? That's also productive. So here's the funny thing, guys and gals. The key to wrathful actions is not stomping, or snapping, or clapping, or scowling. The key to our wrathful actions is embracing the nightmare of the present moment with compassion and wisdom. You do that, and you'll go a long way to accomplishing Grain Tare in this lifetime. I'm going to now chant this for you using the bookend chant. And of course, if you're able to, recommend doing it with your hands in the puckered palm position. I don't do it. It kind of exacerbates my disabilities. Homage to you whose foot stumps the earth and whose palm strikes the ground by your side, with a wrathful glance and the syllable whom you subdue all in the 7 stages. One last thing before I let you go. Some people say whom, that refers to the wrathful mantra. Cool, I'm going to walk around and collect every tower mantra I can because I'm just so damn spiritual. And that's Jim Dandy. But remember, centuries after this was penned, the great Bengali sage Atisha explained that it's less is more. Centuries later, Zapatu Rinpoche, as an old man, now as a Buddhist liberal, he wrote that really all you need is one deity, one mantra, one practice. Really keep it simple, paring it down. In my youth, in the beginning of my training in this life, I was a spaz, and I was collecting deities and mantras and practices, and I never met a complication that I didn't embrace. That was not spiritually productive. And when I really embraced Zapaturu Rinpoche's call for simplification, that's when things really, really took off. So if you're going to stick with a tower mantra, I recommend embracing the 10-syllable mantra, Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha. I look forward to working with you during the next webinar. And you can check the links to find out when that is and register and all that kind of good stuff. I want to remind you to click the subscribe button. And let's see, I want to get this all right. And click the like button and the share button and the Twitter and the Google Plus and the Facebook and all that kind of good stuff. May you and yours be healthy and happy. Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha.